Coming up on Network Africa, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni sworn in for a sixth term in office. Two protesters killed in Sudan's capital Khartoum after security forces dispersed demonstrations with bullets and tear gas. Plus, the World Food Programme delivers hundreds of lorries containing food aid to Ethiopia's Tigray region. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin in Uganda, where President Yoweri Museveni has been sworn in for a sixth term in office. Over 4,000 people, including leaders from across the continent, were present at the swearing-in ceremony in the capital, Kampala. Mr. Museveni won a highly contested election in January, which main challenger, musician and politician Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, has continued to claim was rigged. The new 5-year term will see the 76-year-old leading Uganda for 40 years, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. In the last 3 decades under his leadership, Uganda has made considerable progress in social and economic development, but the aging leader has also been criticized for hanging on to power beyond his time and clamping down heavily on any challenges. Ahead of the swearing-in, authorities deployed heavily armed soldiers in the capital, Kampala. Some of them were also stationed around homes of top opposition figures. 3 Kenyan members of parliament have been summoned by the Speaker of Parliament after they made allegations that legislators had been bribed to pass a controversial bill that could significantly alter the country's constitution. Lawmaker Moses Kuria, Ndidi Nyoro and Mohammed Ali will appear before the House Speaker after they claimed their colleagues received 100,000 Kenyan shillings each to vote yes for the constitutional amendment bill, popularly known as the Building Bridges Initiative. It's backed by President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga, who say it will help Kenya deal with bitter ethnic divisions that erupted after the 2017-2018 disputed elections. But critics led by Deputy President William Ruto claim the BBI's aim is to create positions for leaders while neglecting urgent issues like poverty reduction and high levels of unemployment. A referendum on the bill is now likely to hold after it was overwhelmingly voted for in both chambers of parliament. Zimbabwe is planning to introduce a law to punish people who are deemed unpatriotic because they criticize the country when abroad. Now, the constitutional lawyer and opposition politician Lovemore Maduku calls the proposal dangerous, saying that no state can define patriotism. People seen as unpatriotic for allegedly undermining the national interest abroad could face criminal charges if the measures being considered are passed. The move is part of a plan to improve the government's international reputation, but campaigners and opposition parties argue that it is another vehicle for oppression. Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Yamutumbu joins us live on the program to tell us more about this issue. Thank you, Nigel, for speaking to us. What more can you tell us about this proposed law that seeks to punish Zimbabweans who criticize the country when they are abroad?
Well, it's really unprecedented to try and legislate love, to try and legislate patriotism, to begin to measure how one ought to love their country or how one can really show that they're nationalist. What is essentially happening is a maneuver, a move to try and regulate the interaction between Zimbabweans and foreign embassies, particularly those perceived to be hostile to President Mnangagwa's administration and the regime, and also coming from a background of the sanctions that have been imposed on Zimbabwe. There is that move to try and ensure that everyone speaks one narrative of the country. There is the move to try and curtail and deal with critical journalism with a view to ensure that it is the regime's narrative or view of what is obtaining in the country that would carry the day in so far as international relations is concerned. But certainly how that such a law is going to be implemented is unprecedented and certainly has all ingredients of being undemocratic.
Well, Nigel, there will be some sort of opposition to this law. Tell us how Zimbabwe is reacting to this, and also how does the opposition plan to challenge it?
Well, already as the civil society organizations, the media in Zimbabwe, there has been a convergence of a lot of stakeholders that are already rallying a campaign online, hashtag Stop the Patriotic Bill. There have been overtures with members of parliament and some government officials to try and ensure that this proposed law does not even reach a bill stage, is not even gazetted, that such a discussion should obviously not be taken forward. There is obviously the option route of using the Constitution and the Constitutional Court should that happen. The litigation route has already been transpiring with the constitutional amendment that have been implemented when the opposition, civil society have used the litigation route. But by and large, there is a mobilization and galvanization, convergence of citizens, religious leaders, civil society, the media, to try and make the message known to the leaders in Zimbabwe and indeed the world that such a law to legislate love has no space in a democracy, has no space in a modern society like Zimbabwe. So there has been those attempts to try and push back.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Nigel Yamuchumbu, Zimbabwean journalist, joining us from Harare.
Thank you.
60 years ago, the International Monetary Fund initiated the African Department, which was created as more and more members of the region started gaining independence and applying for membership. Proud of its successes, the IMF's managing director and president of Côte d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, have both celebrated the department's accomplishments in the region and the road ahead. They both commended the IMF's African Department's work and recognized how critically important it is for Africa to take advantage of the current COVID-19 crisis as an opportunity for advancing economic transformation, digitalization, climate resilience, and investment in human capital.
Africa is on the move, but to stay on the move, growth has to be way above the 3.6% we project for 21. We need growth at 7-8% or more. And we need to recognize that only together, African leaders pursuing those very economic reforms you spoke about, and the international community stepping up significantly support for public and private investments in Africa. Only then we can achieve that dream that you had for a hopeful future of the youngest of our continents, the most vibrant of all. President Ouattara, I want to assure you that we recognize the need for country-specific flexibility that allows countries to move towards recovery for their own sake, but also for the health of the world economy. And at the IMF, we will be working on these two parameters, medium-term fiscal consolidation, so we have an anchor, but flexibility in the short term to make sure we don't cut short the green shoots of the recovery in Africa.
A drop in electricity generation in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana has left households and businesses fuming, as well as cutting power supplies to neighboring West African countries, Mali and Burkina Faso. The country's economy stalls as the country faces a 200-megawatt power generation deficit because of drought and over-reliance on dwindling reserves, whilst cutting supplies to the rest of the region.
Côte d'Ivoire is dealing with major power outages that are devastating local businesses and cutting supplies to neighboring countries. In its capital, Abidjan, fashion designer Ambrose Andela is struggling to make garments in time for Eid as his factory's machine stops sewing.
It gives us insomnia, given the promises we have made to the client, and that we cannot honor our promises because of the power cuts, which are getting very difficult.
A little while away, fishmonger Cedric is facing similar problems.
If this goes on for 2 or 3 days continuously, it will be a real loss for us because they are fresh produce and we need power to preserve them.
Côte d'Ivoire is also one of the world's biggest cocoa producers, and outages have led to complaints from the sector, which depends on steady power supply for its grinding machines. A prolonged dry season has reduced water levels at hydropower dams in both Ivory Coast and Ghana. Speaking at a news conference, the country's energy minister, Thomas Kamara, said the national power company had been forced to use reserved water from its reservoirs to keep hydropower plants going. He said the country would have to reduce the amount of electricity it exports to secure supplies.
We have considerably reduced the quantity of electricity that we export to our regional neighbors, given that the national population is not enough. So we've had to considerably reduce how much electricity we export.
Côte d'Ivoire exports power 6 countries, including Mali, and Ghana, which exports to Burkina Faso. And the national utility is also carrying out rolling outages until May 17th. Mr. Kamara said the situation would return to normal around July.
2 protesters have been killed in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, after security forces fired bullets and tear gas to disperse a demonstration that's marking the 2nd anniversary of a raid on a peaceful sit-in protest in 2019 that left more than 100 protesters dead. Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok issued a statement condemning the incident, saying the use of live bullets on protesters was intolerable, full-scale crime. A statement by the Sudanese army said that it regretted the incident and stressed that no instructions had been issued to the forces deployed at the General Command to use live ammunition against the citizens. Well, the World Food Programme says that some 500 lorries of food have reached Ethiopia's Tigray region. Another convoy of 500 lorries is also on its way to the troubled region to assist the more than 2 million affected people. The organization says the lorries entered the country from neighboring Sudan. The international community has also been putting pressure on the Ethiopian authorities to facilitate aid workers' access to those who are most in need. Thousands of people have been killed and many more displaced by the crisis that began 7 months ago after federal forces clashed with Tigray regional fighters. Still ahead on the program. Eritrean refugee families arrive Europe, preparing for a fresh start. Please stay with us for more details. Welcome back to the program. The island nation of Madagascar has launched its COVID-19 vaccination program after receiving AstraZeneca vaccines last week. The country recently registered for the Global Vaccination Initiative, COVAX. Now, the health minister, Jean-Louis, was the first person to be vaccinated. The first phase of the vaccination campaign will focus on health workers, then the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions will follow. The country had initially touted a herbal tonic, COVID Organics, as a cure for the virus, despite the World Health Organization's warning against using untested remedies. Madagascar recorded a spike in coronavirus cases in March and April, prompting the authorities to postpone schools reopening as learning institutions had been converted to treatment centers. Once again, Nigerians who travel to Dubai for various legitimate reasons are forced to pay the price for diplomatic row between the country and the Emirates. The latest lingering dispute over COVID-19 flight protocols is resulting in loss of business, lives, overstay fines, and all-round hardship for everyday citizens. In this next report, our Dubai correspondent, Mayowa Adegoke, captures the experiences of some Nigerian residents in the UAE.
Hundreds of Nigerians are bearing the brunt of suspended flights between Nigeria and the UAE, caused by dispute over COVID-19 flight protocols. Both governments were unable to agree amicably, putting more strain on bilateral relations, which have already been tested in recent times.
As I speak with you, under our company, we have over 67 individuals that have overstayed. And there is nothing we can do about it. You know, how do you go about chasing 67 individuals? Now, I have staff that I need to process their visas. I cannot do that. I have staff whose visas have expired and I cannot cancel because I'm outside of the country. Also, even from my own personal side, my visa has expired also. So I need to now cancel my visa, through my sponsor and come in with a visit visa and get a fresh, a fresh residence visa.
Nigeria is opposed to a UAE-imposed antigens rapid test on travelers, although several other countries are required to do the same. And while Emirates Airline recently opened its portal to take Nigeria bookings from the 1st of June, the damage has already been done.
In a way, I think the government should sort this out ASAP so people can start their businesses, move on with their lives as well, because a lot of lives are on hold at the moment. People can't move around. People are stuck. I've got friends who are stuck in Nigeria. For example, I know a personal friend who had to fly all the way to Ethiopia to spend 2 weeks. So normally a ticket will cost you about, let's say, 3,000 and some change, a full-fledged ticket from UAE to Nigeria, return ticket, to be honest. But my friend had to pay 7,000 dirhams to fly through Ethiopia because obviously they're taking advantage when the Emirates doesn't fly.
I have certain clients who actually come in on a regular basis for certain checkups, for certain healthcare needs, which I've already made recommendations for. Now with this, it has affected a whole lot of people. I even had clients who passed away as a result of this, not being able to fly in.
Nigeria is UAE's biggest aviation market, while the Emirates is a hub to attract foreign direct investment, which Nigeria desperately needs. One wonders why the situation lingers.
So I think the problem Nigeria and the UAE is having is dialogue, constructive dialogue, not sentimental dialogues or personal ego dialogues or whatever it is. We understand that, yes, compared to other nations, Nigeria was not supposed to be given such hard restrictions on COVID tests and antigen tests and all of that.
Both nations have interests to protect. World Expo 2020 Dubai, which was postponed due to the pandemic, is now 5 months away. Ensuring the safety of all visitors is of importance to the UAE. Nigeria, on the other hand, wishes to be given due accord. After all, it is the UAE's biggest aviation hub. For those Nigerians who now face fines for overstaying in the Emirates for no fault of theirs, perhaps both governments would consider them and reach an agreement to pardon those affected. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Mayowa Adegoke for Channels Television News.
And as we end the program today, Eritrean refugee families have been evacuated from Libya to a UNHCR emergency transit center in Romania, where they are being prepared for new lives in Europe. Miriam and her husband Mohammed are being prepared at the emergency transit centers for resettlements in the Netherlands.
An Eritrean refugee family evacuated from Libya is being prepared at UNHCR's emergency transit centers for resettlement in the Netherlands. 34-year-old Miriam and her husband Mohammed fled Eritrea a decade ago. They made their way to Sudan, where they stayed for 8 years until Sudan also became too dangerous. They headed to Libya. They were selected for resettlement by UNHCR due to the insecurity in Libya.
It was hard to earn money. Sometimes I could not find work. Sometimes I couldn't pay the rent. At other times, we had nothing to eat.
They were first transported to Niger and then on to Romania. Once the resettlement process is final, they will be taken to the Netherlands. The Emergency Transit Center, Timisoara, opened its doors in May 2008 as part of a tripartite agreement between Romania, UNHCR, and International Organization for Migration. UNHCR describes the center as a temporary shelter to refugees who are in need of immediate evacuation from their first country of refuge.
The most important thing is the fact that they learn again how to trust, how to smile, and how to have hopes.
Refugees take up educational activities which are customized for different age groups. In some cases, refugees who will have prolonged stays can join schools in the area.
We try to provide them with a sense of structure because having this structure in their activities helps them create order inside and emotionally. In this educational environment, the children can change very quickly.
Resettlement countries usually conduct interviews, medical examinations, and treatment. Can be carried out. Refugees attend orientation workshops and language courses at the ETC geared to the countries where they will be resettling.
That's it on the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.